I'd like to welcome Ronke, and she is a director of product at Promevo.
Yep.
Hopefully I got that correct.
Yep.
Uh, and is here to share her amazing journey of getting into product management and developing a career from there. I will stop sharing my screen. Um, oops, I believe it stopped sharing.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm on the wrong machine here. Give me just a
No
moment.
problem.
Okay, so you should
All
be
right.
that.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Yes. Awesome. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you all so much for having me. I am truly humbled to be in front of you to speak about my experience in breaking into product management. So you'll see here that I have perseverance and fortitude. There's a reason for that. So if you look on my LinkedIn page, you'll see the many trajectories that my career is taking. I started off in tech support. I became a product manager, and I'm going to go through that journey. And then I became a director of product, and then I became a senior product manager, and then I went back to being a director of product. So, and all of that takes perseverance and fortitude, right? And there are days that I want to give up. But if I did give up, I wouldn't be here speaking in front of you. So for those of you that are aspiring product managers, please remember, right place, right time, right job. And I've been there. Okay. So don't give up. So let's dive in, shall we? So give me 1 second here. So let's dive in. I'm Ronke Majekodunmi. On the Zoom, it's going to say Ronke, which is my full name. Everybody calls me Ronke. Director of product at Promevo. For most of my career, I've worked in fintech. So I started off in my career helping to build. First, I was supporting it. It's a bankruptcy filing application that bankruptcy attorneys use to file bankruptcies for people in the US. So we're talking everything from a Chapter 7, 11, 12, and 13 bankruptcy. That particular tool that they use to file that generates all the forms that they take to the bankruptcy court. That's how I started off my career, supporting that product. Then I eventually became the product manager for it. I went from that to building the first of its kind SaaS platform for bankers for that same product, bankruptcy filing application, but I did it for a different company. I went from there to working on a platform for investors. So imagine Jerry Seinfeld, for instance. A family office would manage Jerry Seinfeld's money, but Jerry Seinfeld needed a platform to log into to see how his money is performing and what are the funds he wants to invest in. So I went to go manage that as well. And then further down the road to PayPal, where I was building tools for large enterprise merchants, medium and small business as well. And then at Promevo, I'm not in fintech, but I'm helping to build tools for large, medium, and small size companies to manage their employees in this hybrid environment that we're in. So most of my career, fintech. And then I've helped to build B2B, B2C platforms, but also B2D platforms, which was for developers as well. Most of that I did while I was at PayPal. And that's sort of been the trajectory of my career so far. Any questions for me? Okay, all right, let's keep going. So I wanted to start with this. People ask me all the time, what does it take to be a product manager? And I always tell them, if you feel that deep-rooted call to be a product manager, you should always ask yourself why. For me personally, because not only do I want to build products, but I also want to build people. If I build people, I build great products. If my cross-functional partners, the Scrum team that work with me, if I build them up, then my product vision comes to life. Sort of how I look at it. So that I wanted to start off with. So for my takeaways, we're going to talk about categorizing the different product management types. And I really want to put a lot of emphasis into that one because I get a lot of question about, well, how many types of, what types of product management are there? Which one are you? And things like that. Creating a product management inventory. We're going to talk about that, soft skills versus hard skills and how they kind of intertwine. We're going to talk about developing a product management brand, why you should even do it, and of course, the blueprint behind that. And then we're going to talk about demonstrating competency through LinkedIn, how your LinkedIn profile actually tells your story, because that's where recruiters are going to find you first, and then your resume. So let's get started. So I get a lot of questions on LinkedIn. I get a lot of questions via my website all the time. I want to be a product manager like you. How do I do that? The first thing I always say is, what kind of product manager do you want to be? So these are just a few that I'm aware of, right? A few that I've come into contact with. One thing I'll always say to also aspiring product managers is this: these roles these types of product management positions are also different. They are also different depending on the organization that you're working for, depending on if it's a large company versus a medium-sized company versus a small company versus what it's a fintech versus non-fintech. I just want to kind of clarify that. It's also kind of different. So let's talk about the other question I get is, do I have to be technical to be a product manager? No, you do not have to be. I am the least technical person ever. I'm going to just tell you this right now. But I still am able to I'm still a product manager because I focus more on the customer experience. And I'll kind of talk through that a little bit more. So, but not to say that I don't know what's going on. So whenever I start a new job, the first thing I'm going to do is go to my tech lead. I'm going to say, hey, is there a SharePoint, someplace I can go read up on all the microservices that we use? The reason I do that, I just want to be familiar with it so that when I'm at stand up and people are saying things like, I once worked for a company where they called microservice services nicknames like Kermit the Frog, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So, but because I was able to read up on it, I could go, oh, okay, great. I understand what they're saying. I did the same thing for every organization I've ever worked at, whether it was PayPal, whether it was Backstep Solutions, you name it, didn't matter. I would go figure out what those microservices are. That way, just that I understand what they are doing. The other reason why I always tell people they don't need to be technical to be a product manager is because my job is to provide the big picture for my engineering team, right? My Scrum team. I kind of look at it as, I'm going to get out of your way because they know the back end. They should, that's their territory. It's my job to explain to them what that customer problem is that we're solving and why we're trying to solve it at the end of the day. So I need to get them to understand the big picture, right? And so therefore I don't need to be technical. I just need to get them to understand what is that pain point we're solving for and why does it matter, right? So that said, technical versus non-technical. Again, remember, also depends on the kind of organization you work at. Now, I'm going to give you an example. When I worked at PayPal, I was a level 26, which is a senior product manager role, but my title said technical product manager, but I was not technical. Do you see what I mean? I was not writing technical requirements. I was writing requirements. I was writing one pagers and two pagers, but I was writing it from the customer perspective. So I just kind of wanted to show you this here. I stole this from, you'll see the link on the bottom there. I've shared the presentation with you guys. So this is just to clarify, this is actually it's not my image. I kind of stole this, but the link is out there so that you can kind of see where I got it from in case anybody wants to go look at it. So if you look PM versus technical product manager, you see how the PM has customer facing as part of their role. They set overall product strategy. I did that. I work with many non-technical teams. Yes, 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 yes. Everybody from marketing to researchers and on, right? And my content designer, my designer, right? And then you look at the technical product manager, right? It's a strong technical background. I wasn't writing requirements, but it had technical product manager in my title. It tends to be more capability focused. Again, I wasn't doing that as well. Work with technical internal teams. I work with the engineering teams and I provided the larger picture, the reason why we were solving the problem we were. Now, if you look at how the things they have in common, strategy, ideation, road mapping, features, and go-to-market. Yes, all of those things I was doing. So you're probably wondering, okay, Ronke, you're not technical. So how did you get the engineering team to see the big picture? Very simple. I let design drive my conversation. So how did I do that? Meaning, in different organizations, if I have a designer and a tech lead, they're my three in a box. So I kind of worked in that three in a box, meaning everything that I did with those two people. And we made decisions together. So, but I let design drive the conversation because design tells the story. So I'll give you an example. Um, my designer, I would always go to him or her with just a problem. That is it. Just a problem. I didn't solution it, just a problem. They would come back with a wireframe with that solving that problem. Then we would go to my engineer, my tech lead, and show them and walk through with them. Here's the problem. Here's how we believe we can solve that problem. And we sort of walk through that within the three of us and try to figure out, okay, the technical debts, are we going to be able to do this? Or, are we not going to be able to do this? What are other options? And then we'll bring in our researcher in to work with our researcher if there are questions that we have that we just can't get answered or without talking to a client or somebody, or a prospective. So then we bring them in. From there, we create an updated prototype. And that prototype becomes a speaking, walking picture, document of the problem and how we plan to solve it. When we go to our leadership to present how we're solving that problem, we take the current world that user is in. We start by telling the story from the persona point of view. Here is Jane Doe. She's an admin. Here's what she's trying to do every single day. Here's why she logs into our platform. And oh, by the way, this is the current problem that she has. And we kind of show that through experiences. We take pictures of it. We show that in experiences in the prototype. And then, oh, by the way, here's how we're going to solve it. And we walk through that. So if you're an engineer, if you're my cross-functional partner on the design side of the house, if you are my content designer, if you are a researcher, everything, you now have a design that tells you the story of what we're trying to do, right? And the other reason why that's important, why I prefer to do that, the story travels. I don't have to be in the room. So if you imagine my tech lead has his or her management team that they're going to go talk to and have one-on-ones with. I'm not in the room. But the design that we've been working with together tells the story, and this story travels. They can explain to the leadership why something is important, why we must do it, what problem we're solving for. So that's sort of how I do that. Remember, again, I was saying that it's my job to tell the story, the bigger picture of the problem that we're trying to solve. So that's how I'm able to do that without writing technical requirements. Any questions from me before I go to the next product type? Okay, so the next one, data product manager. I've never been any of this. So I've never worked as a data product manager. I don't want to. It makes my head hurt. So I'm more of a customer facing product manager, but I just wanted to show you, see how a PM and a DPM, see how they're different, but see the things that they have in common. Remember I mentioned design? Yeah, right? So again, I like design to drive my conversation, communication, features, specs, prioritization. Yes, 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 yes. All those things that I do. But those are some of those differences. Product marketing manager. I've never been a product marketing manager either, but I've worked with product marketing manager. Product marketing manager are my best friend. Other than my designer, they are my best friend. I believe a product marketing. So one thing I just would explain is that I think a product manager can help you tell the story of your product better than PMs can sometimes. As a PM, I'm focused on solving that problem. I'm focused on what is that end to end. How did they get from point A to point B? What problem are they trying to solve for? Because keep in mind, when your clients tell you they have a certain problem, what they do and what they say are two completely different things. It really is. So your job as a product manager is you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what is this problem that you really have? Yeah, I get what you're telling me, but what I'm not, I need the full story. So I'm usually busy trying to understand the full end to end. What is the jobs to be done? When they log into that platform, what are they trying to do? My PMM is listening to the messaging, how he or she is going to tell the story of why you should use this product. So in a B2B world, that person is thinking, how do I make you, my client, the hero using our product to solve a problem for your organization. I care about that as a PM, but I'm not really focused on that because I'm focused on solving the problem. So that's where my PMM comes in. My PMM is my best friend. They will come with me to, there are certain organizations, I've been lucky in my career where I've worked in large organizations, medium-sized organizations, and small organizations. Some organizations I've worked at, I've had the privilege to just be customer centric, and they give me the room to basically create an advisory board, a client advisory board, to do focus groups that I create, that I, create on my own, to doing something called a day in the life. A day in the life, I bring a client into the office and we have lunch with that client. And it's me, my PMM, my Scrum team, and my tech lead. But it's us trying to understand how that customer is using our platform and what are the jobs to be done and what are the tools they're using. And so, I'm helping my PMM to understand that customer's pain point, but I'm focused on solving the problem, understanding that full end to end. My PMM is focused on understanding that messaging. Does that make sense, everybody? So I'm telling that story. But again, see how different, but see what we have in common, right? All right. Growth product manager. Okay. So I've worn this hat before, but it wasn't called a growth product manager. It was called technical product manager, but I was a growth PM. Again, remember I said, depending on the kind of organization, depending on the product, all differs. So you see what they have in common, overall product vision? Yes. In fact, I just recently created a 2-year product vision for my product. Is it going to hold? No, but that's okay. I need a North Star. So my product vision for 2 years is me saying to my leadership, here's where I believe we need to be. We need to go in 2 years with this product. Is it going to change? Yes. Market conditions? Absolutely. But it's just a way of me to make sure, number one, I get the alignment of my leadership in that product vision, but then back it, and then I take that product vision and then break it into the roadmap. But I only do my roadmap 2 quarters at a time. So Q1 and Q2. I kind of do it that way. Keep in mind, market conditions, things will change. Communication, yes, absolutely. People ask me, what is the one skill set that a PM should have? Number one for me is always communication. You are a storyteller. Some people say to me, well, as a product manager, you are the CEO of your product. I'm sorry, I don't really buy that. Because if I was the CEO of the product, I could tell people what to do. And I can't, right? I won't be able to. I have to bring people with me. I have to galvanize people. And the way I do that is through storytelling. Storytelling, remember I said I like design to drive my conversation? That is part of my storytelling. So I use design to tell the story for the customer, for my client, as to here is how, especially in the B2B world, here's how I'm going to make you a hero. Here's how I'm going to solve your problem. In my organization, to my leadership, when I present to them, I'm showing them the before of Jane Doe. Here's what Jane Doe has to do to solve this problem. Oh, and here's the after. If you support me and I can go build these features. Here's how I'm going to solve that problem. But design is what I'm using to tell that story. We are chief storytellers, and the way that we tell stories, the way I tell it is through design, but it's a form of communication. And then remember I said my design lead and my tech lead are with me in every conversation. They understand the design, they can tell the story travels. I don't have to be in the room. That is part of the communication. Do you see how I have alignment throughout the whole entire organization? Any questions for me so far? All right. So we're going to talk about soft skills, which matters a lot, by the way. One thing I would just say about communication, as a storyteller, we're like preachers. You have to tell it over and over and over again. And you can never get tired, because remember that I always kind of explain it this way. The core value, the thing that brings all of us together is a core value of our organization. We align with that core value. That's sort of, to me, where the love of our product comes from. It starts from there. We all have this thing in common where we align with that core value. So now that you have that down, right, to then really fully get the whole entire organization to rally around your product vision, it's through communication, through storytelling. They need to understand the why. And only you can do that through storytelling. And again, it helps if design drives that conversation. So the other types of product manager roles, I just included these three. I've held these three as well. I have been an end-to-end product manager. So you're like probably wondering, what does that mean? So that means it is my job to understand what our clients are trying to do, the full end-to-end of how they're using the platform. From onboarding to servicing, what are they trying to do? What are the tools that they're using? Are they using DocuSign? If so, what are they trying to use DocuSign for? Because they're going outside my platform. So why do they need it? What are the tools? Are they not telling me that they need? So that's sort of what I did in that role. So picture a regular PM role, but I was more of an end-to-end. It's my job to understand the end-to-end of what our clients are trying to accomplish. It didn't matter if they were a large enterprise merchant, or small, or business, or an SMB. A medium-sized customer. Keep something in mind for me. SMBs, there are 4 types of SMBs. There's John Doe who's selling stuff from their garage, all the way to a company that has about 50 employees. They're sort of in that small business category. Their workflow is going to be different. And that's so in an end-to-end, I'm trying to understand, okay, what does John Doe need? What is John Doe doing? And what versus a company that has 50 employees and so forth, right? So because their needs there's some things that are similar, but there's some things that are different. I have been a platform product manager. What does that mean? It means I have been tasked with building a brand new platform to service large enterprises, medium-sized enterprises, and small businesses. So that meant I had to go figure out, again, what their needs are, right? Understanding a full end-to-end journey, but then figure out what they had in common, what they didn't have in common, and how we were going to provide them those needs, build those into a new platform so that we're not. Our goal was to make sure we didn't have 3 different platforms. We didn't want to have one platform for a small business, one platform for a medium-sized business, and a separate one for a small. We wanted one platform. And so in that role as a platform product manager, the first thing I did was to go do research for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months to go. In that role, I worked with 3 designers and a researcher and an engineering lead. And our job was to go figure that out. What should this platform be? And what problem should it solve for all these types of businesses? I have been a customer experience product manager. And a customer experience product manager, same thing, everything I just mentioned about a PM, but as a customer experience product manager, I was focused just on the customer experience. Again, not technical. I'm focused on the jobs to be done, understanding, making sure I was solving the problem for the customer, but through an experience. Again, this is where I mentioned letting design drive the conversation. I was solely focused on building experiences through design. And that's what we executed on. I'm going to stop here for a minute. It's been a lot. I've explained a lot. Does anybody have any question for me?
You have a question in the chat from Reza. Is E to E
Okay.
PM not the same as solution PM?
So again, I haven't actually solution PM. I have not heard of. This is my first time hearing that. But in ET, for an NT, it could be the same thing. I just haven't seen a definition of it. But what I've come across that and a hat that I've worn is that of an end-to-end product manager in the particular company I was working at. We didn't call it a solution; it was just an end-to-end. But it could be the same definition. I just hadn't heard of it. Any other question?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really love it. So I was wondering, besides communication and storytelling skills, what are the soft skills that are really important for PM?
Ah, all right. Hold on to that thought. I'm gonna get
Oh,
to it. Okay.
okay,
It's coming.
perfect.
It's coming.
Okay.
By the way, it's coming. So just a side note, a little thing on my side here. I like to bribe my cross-functional team with food. Just a side note. So, cupcakes, donuts, you name it. That's sort of a thing that I do. But joking aside, um, you want to get to know people, and I'll explain that in a little bit, how those soft skills kind of help. Um, so again, just remember something about the different product manager types. As you look for roles, as you look for them, just kind of pay attention to what that role is. But remember, every organization, large, small, depending on the product, they may name it something completely different. Like someone just mentioned, a solution product manager. I was an end-to-end product manager. So does that make sense? All right, let's talk about hard skills, everybody. So I get this question all the time. They're like, I always get it from my students when I was teaching at product school, or students that I mentor. And I always get, Ronke, what's more important to your hard skills or soft skills? Soft skills. Soft skills. And here's the reason why. You can learn hard skills, right? But you need soft skills to galvanize not just your Scrum team, all your cross-functional partners, your leadership. You need soft skills. So you can have all the great hard skills in the world, but if you can't galvanize them, if you can't tell a story, you can't, how does that help you? It doesn't, right? So I always tell, when people ask me, I'm like, I can teach hard skills, but I need that person to have soft skills, because that's how you're going to move along, right? And I'll tell you and I'll provide you a little bit more information in a minute. So key hard skills, product management knowledge, obviously, frameworks. I'm going to be honest with you. There's so many frameworks out there. You're going to study frameworks for your interview. You're going to get the job. But those frameworks, you're not going to use them in your job as a product manager. You're going to be more focused on other things, right? Soft skills. You're going to use that the most. But you should definitely know frameworks and process and methodologies, right? But especially those frameworks, like I get a lot of students who say to me, well, I need to know rice. I need to know this. I need to know that. Yes, but you're not going to need it. And when you do need it, it's going to be minimum in your day. And I'll explain a little bit more. Ruthless prioritization skills. Yes, you should know how to prioritize. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. Economics of it. You should be able to have trade-off conversations, cost versus benefit analysis conversation, technical debt. I'm going to give you an example of that. So actually, I'm going to take a step back and talk about ruthless prioritization. You can prioritize, but guess what, everybody? There will be a day, and I've had this many in my career, when a client of yours, who's one of your top 5, who knows they're one of your top 5, comes in and says, you know that feature I've wanted for a year? Yeah, if you don't give it to me, this is September, if I don't have it by December, I'm going to leave you. What do? Right? And then your leadership comes to you and says, okay, Ronke, go build it. We don't care about your roadmap. Just go build it. So that throws your roadmap into chaos, right? So there's ruthless prioritization, but then there are other things that impact your roadmap and your prioritization, right? And you have to negotiate. So there's that. There are things that impact your prioritization where one of your colleagues needs your engineering team to go build something for them. And you also have your roadmap, but you have to take a step back and tell your engineering team, okay, we're going to take a sprint and go build something for Jane Doe, because her product is making more revenue than mine. So let's go do that. And your prioritization is going to take a hit, right? Things like that happen, especially in large and medium-sized organization. Economics and trade-offs. So the way that, I'm just going to give you some examples of that. You're going to do trade-offs, right? You're going to decide, okay, I'm not going to do this thing that a lot of clients want, but I'm going to do this thing because, one of my top 5 clients has told me that if I do it, they will not only buy more from us, but they'll sign a 3-year contract, which is worth $90 million. So I'm going to do some trade-offs there. And you're going to have that conversation with your boss. Technical debt conversation. I believe I'm in a partnership with my tech lead. So I'm just going to give you some examples of how I handle technical debt. You incur technical debt with everything that you build. That's just the way life is. So I'm always in a conversation with my technical lead. We're agile. So I'm always like, okay, listen, Raul, this sprint, he and I have lunch together. My tech lead and I have a one-on-one. So which means that for us, we just have lunch together. I'm just giving an example. We'll have lunch together where we sit side by side with our lunch and our laptop on a Tuesday afternoon. And I will say, okay, here's my backlog, but here's what I want to do in this sprint. And we'll go through Jira. And I'll say, okay, so I have, I don't know, 60 hours or something, depending on how many engineers, depending on, how we calculate that. I would say, okay, we have 60 hours no holiday. I want to give you 25% of that for technical debt. And he'll go, yeah, no, that's great. Okay, that works for me. We may do something like that. There's some teams where it's like, it's just, no, I need more than 25. Here's what's going on. And then there were some teams where, and we'll negotiate that, right? But that's just between me and my tech lead. There's some, I've worked in teams where, because we have moratorium and we don't release anything that will impact customers starting November, right after Thanksgiving all the way to New Year, I don't give them anything to work on. They just work on technical debt. And that gives me time to go get ready for Q1. It really depends. You negotiate that. Research and analysis, absolutely. Market research, compiling data analysis, super, super important. And you're going to be doing that. You're going to be doing research. You're going to be working with a researcher, hopefully. Knowledge of development principles, yes. The reason why I put empathy behind that is because you should have empathy for your engineering team and what they are going through. They are some of the engineering teams that I worked with, most of them actually, this one person is always on call throughout the night, in case something happens, right? Some engineering teams that I've worked with, we do something called what we ramp, where we may say, okay, we're going to ramp this particular feature 25% in the US on Monday morning. We're going to ramp just the East Coast or the West Coast, in the East Coast, because we it's New York, and we are going to do it at 5 a.m. California time. So that means an engineer is getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning to go do that. Empathy really is important here. So that's why I put that about this knowledge of development principles. There are some meetings that my engineering team have. Again, remember, I'm not technical, but I go to it. Like KT, knowledge transfer. Some have that. And I just kind of attend it. I'm just a fly on the wall. There are some meetings that other teams have had, such as there's a monthly engineering meeting where all the engineering team in my department will go to, where their engineering lead will sit there, the director of engineering for the whole entire that part of the organization. They'll go through what bugs they had, how many P0s. P0s means, by the way, all hands on board. Oh my God, roof is on fire. We got to go see what's going on, right? And then how many P1s? And they'll actually talk about how many P0s and P1s they've had. And I attend those meetings. I'm just fly on the wall, but I'm kind of listening. Just, again, I want to make sure that I have empathy for my team, for my engineering team. Does that make sense, everybody? So, hard skills. Let's talk about the soft skills. I've already talked about communication. You're a storyteller, hands down, right? You're not a CEO, you're a storyteller. And that's how you're going to galvanize through storytelling. Okay. Leading without authority. What do I mean by that? So let's talk about that a little bit. When there's an organization that I worked at, and I could not release a product without 10 teams having a say in it. 10 teams needed to have a say in what I was doing. So you're probably wondering, wait, what? How did you manage this? First and foremost, communication. I mentioned in the beginning of the year, they knew what I was building. They knew what was on my roadmap because I needed them to add me to their roadmap. Because don't forget, I may be in a vacuum. I don't want to be in a vacuum building my roadmap because they're building their roadmap and they don't even know that I'm coming to them yet. So that's why that conversation is had way in the beginning of the year. so that they will know I'm coming and they can make time for me on their roadmap. And I'll give you some examples. So let's say, for instance, just hypothetically, I'm building
Did we lose the sound?
Go ahead.
Oh, the audio just cut out for just a moment. So when you said
Oh,
when you were
sorry.
building and it just dropped, so
Okay. Is this back up?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me so I'm just giving some examples. So in this particular organization, like I said, there were 10 teams that had a impact on whether or not I could release my product or even build it. There's risk. The team risk is the one who you ever log into your bank account and you get a PIN that's sent to your phone and you have to go type in that number. That's risk. They cannot handle that. There's compliance, meaning, okay, Ronke, in Europe, in UK, in Italy, in France, the rules are different. Here's what those rules are, making sure that I abide by those rules. There's legal, right? Making sure I'm not putting things content-wise that could get me in trouble. There's InfoSec, right? The website itself, what does it look like? What am I trying to do? There is policy, there's privacy, teams, you name it, on and on and on. But the risk team, for instance, if I show them a brand new experience and I'm building, let's say, 10-year experience, they might need to do something called a risk call, right? To make sure that the person who's using those experiences is valid. So they may send a pin or something like that just to confirm their identity, but they have to update their API. The team compliance, okay, this is a global product, so that means in Europe, the rules are different, Germany versus UK versus France. So that means they got to go update their API. So I'm now impacting their roadmap. And my designer,
Well, you dropped again for a
I
second.
dropped again. I'm so sorry. No, okay. So how I lead without authority. So I use my design to tell that story. Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Okay. And please just ping me again if I do repeat. So I use design to tell that story. So I schedule a meeting. I mean, I'm talking a big meeting, 30 people on this call with my partners. But I use design to tell the story. And I always start with, are you guys ready? But reminding everybody of the core value of our organization, because that's where we all align, right? That's where the love of our product comes from. And I talk about the customer value and the business value of this feature. Then we tell the story of it. Here's Jane Doe. She's an admin. Here's what she's doing now. Here's how we can solve her problem. So these teams go off and then they come back a week later or two, and they'll say to me, okay, Ronke, Risk may say to me, okay, we got to go update our API for you. It's going to take, we are in the middle of another project right now. It may take, a month. Compliance may come back and say, I can't even get to you at all. Sorry, right? So here's how I have to lead without authority. Leading without authority, I'm not going to run to my manager or my leadership every single time something is wrong. I'm going to have to manage it myself. With team risk, I may say to them, okay, it's only a month out, no problem, I'm good. With compliance, I may go, no, I need you sooner. I need your help. You got to fit me into your roadmap. And they may say to me, sorry, Ronke, just can't do it. And then in that case, then I'm going to say, okay, fine. Can we have your documentation for your code, for your part of the code? And our team is going to see if we can inner source the code. Does everybody know what I mean by inner source the code? So it means that one of the engineers on my team will go look to see if they can make those changes in their code themselves. And then we ask that team to support us by reviewing that work that we just did, and then to make time in their sprint for us, not only to review it, to get back to our engineer, but also to help us release it later on when we're ready and do end-to-end testing. Do you see how I'm leading without authority? You see that? With my risk partner, I may go to them and say, listen, depending on what the situation is, but one thing I do with my risk partner is I make sure I align my KPIs to theirs. So if you think about risk, their job is to prevent fraud in the system, right? That's what they're trying to do. So I'm going to say, okay, listen, guys, I know there are 10 screens, but can we just do the most important ones first? If we do the most important ones, then you can update your API and then we'll come back and do the other one in phases. I may do that with them because again, I want to make sure I align with their KPIs, right? Which is to prevent fraud in the system. So you're probably asking, Ronke, how do you know to do this? I start by getting to know them. I cannot tell you how many coffee dates I have gone on with my partners, not dates, but how many coffee events I've had. Every time I start a new job, I go to get to know my cross-functional partners. I meet them for coffee. I meet them for lunch. I try to understand where they're coming from. I try to understand what their life is like. I'll give you another example. Remember that big meeting I mentioned that I always have before with all my partners? I scheduled that meeting for 9 a.m. in the morning. The reason why I do is because I have 2 of my partners who drop their kids off at school at 8 in the morning. They are like, no, Ronke, you can schedule the meeting at 8. I'm like, no, that's your time with your kid. We're fine. Go drop off your kid, and then, come to work. Because think about it. If they're taking the meeting on a phone during, while driving their kids to school, they can't see my screen. They're not present. Their mind is elsewhere. So if I know their schedule, which I do, I'm going to schedule the meeting for 9 a.m. in the morning when I know that they can attend and they're at peace because they were able to spend some time with their kids before they drop their kids off at school and now they're at work. I have some colleagues who can't take calls after 4 o'clock because they're busy. They just had to go pick up their kids from school. I don't schedule meetings for after 4. If I have to, I'm going to record the call and make sure that they get access to it. But do you see how I'm leading without authority here? By the way, one last thing. There are some situations where you're going to have no choice but to escalate it. Then you're going to work with your project manager to figure out how to escalate it to your leadership. And even in those situations, by the way, I will go to that product manager and I will say, listen, Jane, we're going to have to escalate this. No hard feelings. I just need my leadership to help me figure out how to work with your leadership. The reason I'm doing that is because we live in a small world. I'm going to work with that PM again. So why create an adversarial relationship where they feel like I am telling on them? Leading without authority. Persuasion. You see how I go to my risk partner and I'm like, listen, I want to align with your KPI. What's important to you this year? Less fraud. Okay, let's do the most important screens first. And then let's do that first and then come back and do the rest. I've done that. I've had a situation where my risk partner told me, no way, no, I cannot build something. I literally have had that. It's just like, rather than escalate to my leadership, I went back to my partner, my risk partner, and I said, okay, how about this? I will build this, but I will only give it to that one big top 5 client. I won't give it to anybody else until I go do the other things that you want me to do. And he said, yes. He's like, okay, fine. That I can live with. You cannot release it to everybody, just that one client. I said, yes. And you can monitor it. So you can check it. Do you see how I'm leading without authority and persuasion? Ruthless prioritization. Remember I mentioned that earlier as part of a hard skill? You're going to have to, yes, you'll know how to prioritize. But when your top 5 client tells you, if you don't build something that I've asked you for the last year, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to leave. Then you have to reshuffle because your leadership is going to go, we're not losing $20 million. Go figure out how to make it happen. And you will. And you'll have to tell that story to your engineering team while you're reshuffling. And I will just say, be honest. Transparency equals trust. I always tell my Scrum team the real deal and what's going on. Transparency equals trust. Delegation, yes, you're going to have to delegate, especially if you're a people leader. Delegate. Galvanizing the cross-functional team. I think you kind of notice I've kind of talked through that a little bit, but yes. And you're going to do that through storytelling. You're going to talk to your PMM, who's your best friend, and have them in the room. Galvanizing cross-functional team, by the way, I would just tell you, other than design telling the story and making sure my story travels, sometimes I've had to literally say to a partner of mine, hey, can you join this call? And I put them into the room with the client, because sometimes they need to see the pain point of that client for themselves instead of me telling them what that pain point is. And I've had to do that. I've had to say to a partner of mine, please come into the meeting. Also, they can ask questions. Again, do you see how that story travels after that call? My partner is not going to be like, well, Ronke said. No, no, no. They were in the room, right? And I no longer have to worry about getting their buy-in anymore. Empathy, so important, especially post-COVID, so important. We've had a disruption in our lives, right? So empathy is big. I'm always checking in on my teams, my cross-functional teams, my partners. I'm always checking in on them just to make sure they're okay, to see if they need anything. Remember I said I'm a PM that likes to build people, and then I build products. I genuinely care about my team, and I have a lot of empathy for them and what they're going through. And if they know I care about them, building the product is a piece of cake after that, because they're going to bring their authentic self to work and they know that I care. You have to be flexible and adaptable. You just have to be. The world, I mean, you'll be amazed. One day you're going along doing your job, and all of a sudden you get called into your boss's office, and it's like, yeah, do you remember that feature that's been on the roadmap for a year? Yeah, you're going to have to go build it, because so company is going to leave us. You have to be flexible and adaptable. And you have to be able to take initiative, meaning you don't wait for somebody to solve problems for you. You're gonna have to just say, okay, I'm a product manager. I own this. I'm gonna go do this and handle this. And the last thing I didn't put on here, because personally, I just think this is a lot already. Psychological safety. We're the bearer of psychological safety as product managers. What we do, what we say, can galvanize or break our teams. We are literally the bearer of psychological safety. I carry that psychological safety on my shoulders. I'm always conscious of that. In decisions, that's why I mentioned earlier, transparency equals trust. Like, I have to always be honest with my team. Even if I don't have the answer to something, I just don't have the answer to it. I'll go figure it out. And the reason, once you lose that trust, it is hard to get it back. It is hard to get it back. And another reason I want to leave you with regarding soft skills, remember, as a product manager, you're asking a bunch of people to stake their careers on you, on your product vision, on your decision. Tell them what's going on. Always tell them what's going on. So, let's talk about developing product management brand. So, the pandemic hit. And I was trying to, I wanted to be honest with you. So the pandemic hit, and I wanted to do a conference. I wanted to speak on behalf of my organization, and I wasn't given the opportunity. So I was out walking and talking to my mentor, and I was like complaining, like, I really have something to say here. There aren't a lot of people that look like me in product. I have a lot to say. And in the middle of my walk and complaining, she says to me, can I ask you a question, Ronke? I'm like, what? She goes, who's stopping you? She's like, who's stopping you? She goes, go do it. So I sort of, in the middle of the pandemic, realized that I can't wait for people to give me opportunities. I have to create opportunities myself. And when you work in large organizations, as I did, you become a number. So how do you differentiate yourself? So not only for your leadership to notice you, but so that you can also make a difference, right? So for me, personally, this is just me. I wanted to use my voice. I decided, okay, I'm going to use my voice, but I want to use my leadership voice for good. And I'll kind of talk to that a little bit more. What does that mean? It meant for me, okay, now that I want to tell my story, okay, great, that's lovely. There are people that look like me in product management. What is so unique? So I started to tell my story, the story of Ronke, how I became a product manager, starting in technical support, how I am a PM without being a technical PM, and on and on and on. I started trying to figure out how to start using my leadership voice. So I partnered with Product School and I started doing a bunch of webinars for them. It kind of started there. Then Product School was like, oh, do you want to write blogs? So I'm like, sure, why not? So I started writing. I kind of started to do that, to write a little bit. What I will say is it kind of started there with doing webinars and then me writing blogs. And even with my blogs, like I once had a student say to me, why don't you just let ChatGPT write your blogs for you? And I was like, I could, but I won't because my blogs come from an emotional place for me. I could literally be doing dishes and a thought will come to my mind and I'll write it down as to, oh, wow, I haven't really seen that topic. And if you go to my website and look at a lot of my blogs, you'll see what I mean. They come from an emotional place for me because I need to be able to I can literally tell you the story of every single blog on my website, what I was thinking, what I was going through, when I wrote it, and why I wrote it, right? I need to be able to tell that story, which ChatGPT wouldn't really let me be able to do. And also, I didn't want to sound like a robot. So there's that. But what I would say is kind of started there. And also what I realized was I started to influence from the outside in, I guess you could say. Meaning when I started writing blogs for Product School, my leadership started to notice me. So like I wrote a blog. I remember my very first blog I wrote for Product School. It was about storytelling. One of my colleagues posted it on one of our Slack channels. Our CTO, who is the busiest person ever, other than the CEO of our organization, pinged me and said, hey, Ronke, I love your blog about storytelling. Oh, I was on cloud 9, right? So that's sort of how it started for me, was just creating opportunities that weren't there for me, right? And I just decided, okay, I'm going to get off my pity party because, and the other thing too is this, I'm always cognizant of the fact that I have opportunities that other women and other people don't have, right? And cognizant of the fact that other people had to create opportunities so that I can be where I am today. So I needed to create opportunities for other people, right? So that meant if it wasn't there, I was going to figure out how to do it. And so if you actually look on my website, you've noticed a lot of that. It's just me literally trying to create these space for myself to tell stories about what it means to be a product manager. So using my leadership voice, influencing from the, outside in or inside out in some cases, going to organizations like Women in Product, which is the reason why I'm even in the Bay Area, and saying, okay, guys, you guys are changing my life. You changed my trajectory here. How can I help? How can I be of service? Volunteering for organizations like Localized, where I'm just like, you got me. Tell me, January, February, March. When do you want? Tell me what topic you want me to speak about. But finally, the portrait test. If you get a chance, I am obsessed with John Meacham. John Meacham is a historian, and he always talks about if there's a hold on, the internet. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes, you're
Okay.
back.
Okay, good. Sorry. Passing the portrait test. So John Meacham always talks about, if you get a chance, follow him. He's awesome. He teaches at Vanderbilt. He's a historian, John Meacham. He talks about the alarm clock test and the portrait test. I'm going to leave you with the portrait test. So the portrait test, he talks about how if we are all on a portrait one day and people are walking by our portrait, what do we want them to see? What do we want them to know about us? So for me, it wasn't just using my leadership voice, it was about creating opportunities for the next generation of not just women of color that are coming behind me, women in general, men, diverse product managers. It's for me, it's to just be able to just, even if all I did was contribute just a little bit to that, that is me passing my portrait test. Just a little bit, even if it's just a tiny little bit, then that's sort of me doing that. So those are the things that drive me as I write blogs, as I, give back to the product community, as I, just go about my, what I do with Ronke PM. It's just, these are the things. Like, I'm constantly trying to use my leadership voice, constantly trying to use that voice, constantly trying to influence any way that I can, giving back to product community, not just, again, I'm even beginning to notice, especially with the organization localized, women internationally that want to get into product management, but passing that portrait test. And in terms of your LinkedIn and resume, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll notice it's about storytelling. So that's where your recruiters are going to find you first. If you go to everything from the URL of my LinkedIn, you can customize it. You can customize your URL, make it easier for people to find you. If I just Google Ronke Majekodunmi, my LinkedIn profile comes right up because my URL is, ends with Ronke Magic. Organizations that I belong to. If you notice my profile, you'll notice it's well-rounded. Organizations that I belong to. Even putting the links of prior organizations that I've worked at in my profile matters, because then that recruiter doesn't have to go find them. I've made their job easier because everything.
Nope, just cut out a second. One second, we're still,
I think we lost the sound.
yeah, hang on. Hopefully it comes back. She probably has the same ISP as I do.
Sorry.
There we go.
Can
You're
everybody
back.
still hear me? Okay,
You're
I'm
back.
back. Okay, sorry. Okay, I don't know why that keeps happening, but that's okay. So I was just talking about my profile and how your story begins. Your story of yourself begins with your LinkedIn profile, because that's where your recruiters are going to find you. Making it easy for them to find you, like where it says contact, you'll notice my contact, you'll see my personal website there, you'll see my email address there, making it easy for them. Groups, if you go on my profile, you'll notice I have recommendations. Making sure you have recommendations is important. You'll notice people you notice my skills, having people say, oh, Ronke, you're great with product management. All that stuff matters. Telling your story through LinkedIn. So that stuff matters. You'll see all the organizations that I belong to. All that is there as well. So you see how I have here, I have LinkedIn story and then I have resume, making sure that my resume then matches my LinkedIn, making sure that resume, because like I'll get recruiters who will ping me and go, hey, I like your LinkedIn profile. Can you send me your resume? Make sure that they match as well. So that's sort of what I want, but I really wanted to put a lot of emphasis on the LinkedIn part because that's where you'll get noticed first. Any questions for me so far? All right. So final thoughts. When you become a PM, or if you're already a PM, lead purposefully. Lead with purpose. I lead with purpose. I want to make sure at the end of the day, the people that I work with, that I made a difference in their lives. We all play a minor character in each other's lives, right? But I just want to make sure that I make a difference, and that because they're making a difference for me as a PM. Every single role I've had as a product manager, my Scrum team, my cross-functional team has changed me. They have made me a better human being, a better leader, a better person, and I'm so grateful for it. So lead purposefully, right? Lead with purpose. Empowering the next generation of women, something I'm super, 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 super important to me. There's some stats out there from, I want to say Gilp, of all the product managers in the United States, right? Of all the product managers in the United States, African American women are 2.9% or something like that. Of all, which is a very small, right? And a very small minority there of product managers. So empowering women is super important to me. Empowering diverse generation of product managers is super important to me. This is just for me anyway, but I just want to mention that the more diverse we are, the more we're building for everybody's community, right? Not just, and that's super important because that's the only, it's not just, it's a big revenue play, right? If we're building for everybody, then, it's great for our companies, but we have to make sure that everybody's represented. And of course, perseverance. I cannot tell you how many no answers I've gotten when I was trying to move to the Bay Area. I cannot tell you how many no answers I've gotten even after moving to the Bay Area. I cannot tell you I've been laid off in more than one job. I am still standing. The right job, the right place, the right time. Perseverance, everybody. Please continue to persevere. I cannot tell you that enough. Finally, to become courageous, we must do the things that scare us. We are fortified as leaders by doing what was deemed impossible, allowing us to elicit change, making the journey much easier for others to walk that same path. I'm so happy I'm using my voice. I'm so happy that I'm creating opportunities because I was just kind of waiting for someone to do it for me, but I just had to actually start to do it. So we have to be courageous and do those things that may seem scary because that's how we're going to change things and change circumstances and create opportunities. And especially as product managers, we're in a unique place to be able to do that. Remember I said we are the bearer of psychological safety. Just imagine what we could do. So here are my favorite resources. They're on my site as well. If you go to the resources section, my favorite influential books, they're there on the site as well. I love to listen to podcasts when I'm cooking, when I'm cleaning in my apartment. They're all on my site as well. I have my own podcast called Product Magic. It's the last one on the bottom there. But these are all my favorite podcasts as well. Also on my site as well. And I just want to say thank you for having me. It's been a blast. Here's all the places you can contact me. And thank you for having me.
And thank you. This was such a inspiring conclusion at the end of the talk. I'm feel energized to show up to work early tomorrow, as hopefully everybody else is as well. But I mean, this is just a wonderful kind of outlook on things. I'm definitely going to have some takeaways. I love your description of stories that travel, because we usually think, oh, I'm going to tell the story to one person, and it's like, and thinking about, well, is this going to grow legs? And
Exactly.
the story retells itself, and that's a very powerful concept that I haven't heard anyone put into words quite that way in recent memory. So again, thank you so much for sharing. This has been phenomenal. It was a great kind of wrap up for the end of the year. I hope to stay in touch as the year goes on, and as we get towards doing some in-person things in 2024. Hope to see each other in person at some point.
I would love that.
And if there's anything SVPMA can do, please, or if there's other things that we can help one another just as communities, please feel free to reach out to any of us, audience as well as board members.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a blast for me, by the way. I couldn't wait to do this, talk to you guys about my journey and all the other good stuff. If you got, let me know if you want the presentation. I'll send it to you guys. Other than that, everything else is on my site. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, I'll be happy if you have it on the site as a PDF, or if you want to send it to me directly. We typically make those available for if folks aren't. Yeah, and if anybody's I'll remind folks, this was such a great presentation. If you have colleagues that could have benefited from this, and say, oh, I really wish, my colleague or my boss or some other person, they really should have been here to hear this. I have a brand new machine, so we will be catching up on the YouTube backlog and getting those posted within the next couple of weeks here. I think I'm going to start with this one because this was such a great talk. So stay tuned on YouTube, and we will see you in the new year. Wishing you all peace and a peaceful year and a better year. And you know, take some time to reflect and recharge during the holidays. And we will start with something inspiring in January, and you know, build up to the next level. And we will all be growing in the new year. And look forward to seeing everybody in person. We'll talk to you in January. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronke.
Thank you guys.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great evening. Bye.